Good evening. Welcome to Epiphany Lutheran Church in Richmond, Virginia on this Saturday, October 3rd. And we are going to be looking at our hymns for worship tomorrow. And they're not just online tomorrow. We will actually be singing these if you come to parking lot worship tomorrow, available by using your FM radio in your car. So you can come and sing these hymns there too. I'm Kevin Barger, the Director of Music Ministries here, and we're glad you've joined us tonight. We're going to go a little bit out of order today. The first one will be our hymn of the day tomorrow, and that is My Song is Love Unknown. And this hymn, like most hymns, has a story. It's a story about us. And there are really few hymns that I can think of that tell the story so well and powerfully as does this one. The words, when you consider these words, love to the loveless shown that they might lovely be. It's what a contradiction you see there, what a paradox that you might hear. So those are just beautiful words. The tune, Rosa Midra, is named for the parish its composer served. However, it's also known by the name Lovely, and that's likely in connection to the text that we will sing that I just mentioned earlier. John Edwards was a member of the clergy, and he wanted congregations to sing, though, so that was very important to him. So he wrote music, and he was probably more well known for his musical contributions, perhaps, than from the clergy side of his career. So here is Rosa Midra, My Song is Love Unknown. A nice, lovely tune there, very calming. We're going to switch to the piano now, and our next tune that we will be singing will be our closing sending hymn. And that sending hymn is When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. So you might be thinking, oh my goodness, it sounds like we're having Lenten worship tomorrow. Certainly this could apply to them. This is based on a verse from Galatians, and it's again by Isaac Watts. And you might remember last week we briefly talked about Isaac Watts and sort of his prolific nature in hymn writing that we still use today. The tune name Hamburg was likely named after the German city, and it was based on the first Gregorian psalm tone. So it's interesting to note here, this entire hymn tune has only 5 notes if you play the melody. So they're, of course, in different orders and mixed around, but there are only 5 different notes that appear in this particular one. So we're going to do a jazz version of this, which will have more than 5 notes. So we hope you enjoy When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. A little bit different than just singing the straight hymn with the 5 notes. All right, so we will now move to the gathering hymn tomorrow, which I bet is one that you'll all recognize. So this is All Creatures Worship God Most High. Tomorrow, October 4th, is the day that we commemorate Francis of Assisi. And this hymn was by Francis of Assisi, and it's sometimes called the oldest religious poem in Italian. It was written in the last year of Francis of Assisi's short life, And he was at that time in pain. He was temporarily blind and near death. So the translation that we now have in our hymnal, which is 835, if you have your hymnal at home and want to look, is much closer to the original than what we saw that was in older versions of hymnals. There were 3 stages to its writing. The first was stanzas 1 through 3 that he wrote, and then stanza 4 came as a separate one as he was trying to quell a quarrel between the civil and religious leaders of Assisi. So that became stanza 4. And then stanza 5 was actually written on his deathbed. Stanza 6, we believe, may have been a refrain. We're not quite sure when that got penned, but it seems like it may have been refrain-like. Above all, for Francis of Assisi, all of God's creatures were making music to praise God. From the birds to everything that you see here, inanimate objects that actually do not make music as we think of normal music. But in this wording, you see brother sun, sister moon and stars, brother wind with clouds, sister water, brother fire, mother earth, all who forgive and endure sickness, and sister death actually appears in that stanza where he was near death, but it comes as we should no longer fear death. So tomorrow, as we commemorate his life and contributions to the church, hopefully you'll recognize this, sung to a tune I bet you know. We're actually going to do 2 versions of this. So there's a really cool version on piano that we're going to do, but then there's an equally cool version on organ, and once you hear what this tune is, you'll say, yeah, we needed to have a little organ on that too. So we'll start with the piano. So a nice contemporary flair to the German chorale. So we're going to go over to the organ now to finish up for a very different version. So we thank you for joining us again this evening, and hope that you'll join us tomorrow, either online here on Facebook or our YouTube channel at 10:30. And if you're coming to the church tomorrow for in-person worship, remember that is in the parking lot at 10 o'clock. You do not need to have reservations for that, just a good working FM car radio. So hopefully we'll see you at one of those two offerings, and I hope you have a good evening. We'll see you next week.